Hello, I'm Helen Van Wyk and welcome to my studio. Today, pointers on how to paint your pet. The first one I should give you is to make sure you have a good photograph to work from. Don't make him sit and stay. Get a good photograph, not a little tiny one, because I've heard too many excuses. I've heard, well, I don't think that painting of your pet is very good. Oh, I only had a little picture to work from. Or I've often heard, I don't know, it's the size of the canvas doesn't seem right. Oh, it's the only canvas I had. I've heard all the excuses. So plan ahead. Today, just to show you how I would go about it, I'm going to do a little picture of a Westie, a West Highland Terrier. And I have a picture of one. May I show you this one? This is Max. This was my dog. Many moods of Max. He was an Italian Greyhound and was this color, dark, and to show off these magnificent shapes, I put him against a light background. But a West Highland Terrier is always white, and so I'm going to paint him against a dark background. It's always the choice of background that can help you make a pleasant pictorial presentation and make it a little easier, because I think that it's painting your pet that you get very involved with love. So let me show you how I begin. I'm going to start by deciding how big I'm going to make the little guy on the canvas. So let me do it a step at a time. Now, one of the things that would attract a person to a painting would be not the drawing of the figure, but an advantageous placement of the figure. So doing one thing at a time, I decided to do a little Westie because I've kind of taken a bit of a poll. And I think more people have shaggy pets than sleek pets. Pets with shaggy hair. So I'm doing one with shaggy hair to show you how to get that effect. Instead of worrying about the drawing, that's one thing I want to stress to you. Besides, I looked at this little guy in my dog book and he called out to me. He said, "Paint me." Those cute little eyes. No, it's like starting a portrait. Where the eyes are, where the nose is, where the mouth is. Please don't worry, because if you worry, you're like this. But if you only think of one thing, you're going to place the subject, it's not so worrisome. You just have to make a mark at the top and say, that's how tall I want the figure. See that it starts to say, maybe I'm a good start. If it isn't a good start, what do? You wipe it off and start over. True. Don't feel that what you've already done is written in stone. All you've done to begin with is just some black paint and turpentine, and if you don't like it, you could just take your rag, put it on, and just wipe it off, if that were the case. Because of the pressure of time, I have to editorialize on my drawing stage. Now, as I said, he's a white little dog, and I'm going to put him against a dark background. A dark, warm background. Indian red and black is a background color, warm color, that works very well because Indian red is such a covering kind of a paint. So we always have two chances. First, we draw the shape of the dog with turpentine and black, and then we try to improve the shape of the dog with the shape of the background. The drawing process with a brush is always there. I shouldn't say the drawing process, the shaping process. Making shapes. Remember I told you about this man that I met? And he said at a demonstration, which was such a wonderful statement, he says, I'm a shape searcher. But I have amended it, or I've extended it. I'm not just a shape searcher. I'm a shape searcher, a beautiful shape searcher. Shapes that I feel are going to be an asset. Yes, I have a lot of brushes. I don't use them all. I just feel as though I need them. They're my security blanket. Just like my kitchen, I have more pots and pans than I use. But who knows? So now I'm mixing up a gray, making a gray-green because I used a red background to be the kind of gray I need to start the mass tone of the dog. And this is going to be his silhouette. But I'm going to make the silhouette of him smaller than I want it in the final analysis or the final appearance, because I want to have a chance to fluff out and make a feeling of the shaggy hair. Oh, a painting goes through such funny looking stages. And since I want to focus only on this cute little perky face, I'm not going to, and I really can't read too well what's going on down there. I'll just say, oh, let's just fiddly-dee that away. Make it a trifle and trifle with it. And now back to the background color again, to make sure I've invaded the shape enough. Because I want to come charging out with these pretty little fluffy shapes of hair. Right here, though, I have to make sure I make a lost line, because this is his head and this is his body, and I want to detach that. I also need that here. A lost line. That means a fuzzy line. A line that comes right into the drawing, even though I don't see it. See how that suddenly made his face come forward and his body go back. Remember I told you about the 13th century, everything looks kind of flat. In the 17th century, everything took on a better dimension, because in the 17th century, they found the lost line. 13th century, everything was very sharply delineated. And if we go about it simply, it becomes possible. And so my only thought now is the background shape, the silhouette of the dog, where his nose, eyes, and mouth are, and his ears, of course. And so, let me step back and see what I have. Meaning of Beauty, a dog I had many years ago. She was a wonderful pet. She always would be like this, looking at me with her eyes and her face over her paw. And I thought that this would be so typical of her, just to focus in on here. And you notice I did employ not having to paint the rest of her tail and her other leg. I just let it fade away, just suggest it. I did this way back in 1960. We have two dogs now, Joya and Flash. Well, I could have painted them for you, but Joya is a brindle, very difficult to paint. Oh, such a medley of brown and white, and flashes black. So I thought that it would be nicer to paint this fluffy dog. Our dogs are whippets, sleek dogs, not this shaggy kind. Let me get a shaggy brush to show you how I can start to flip the hair out into the background. White and a little bit of yellow ochre. Never use white alone. Put something in it to give it a little bit of a interest. And I usually work from the top down. I can watch the expensive end of the brush that way. Well, even the little ears are a bit fluffy. So I start the stroke within the shape and let it fluff out. Here's a really big fluff. And I've allowed for it. I have the silhouette of the dog a little bit smaller than it's going to be in the end. If you make it just the same size as you see it, and after you do all the fluffing, you end up with it too big. This hair, progression of application, is very important. The hair that I see here comes from in back of his ear. So I'm going to put that in first. And then bring the ear in front of it. Seems sensible. It's always just a matter of being a little sensible. A little clever about it. Think in terms of what the paint can do. Don't think in terms of what you think you can't do. Just live in the world of paint. See it in terms of paint, not in terms of dog. Never have a little dog on the end of your brush. Really, if you learn the basic principles of painting, any subject becomes one that you could try for. We don't learn subject matter. We learn paint. It's just like the carpenter just doesn't learn how to build a house. He can build anything. The musician can play anything. And we paint best that which we know. I can't stress that enough. Notice how that basic value that I started out with is serving me well. It's making all these fluffy strokes show. Giving the dog some dimension. Always lay a foundation coat of paint. Save the finishing for the finishing stage. Don't look for the finishing stages too fast. The last thing you do is the first thing people look at. So give that a chance. These are fresh little dogs. We have a dear, dear friend. I've known her a long time, and now she's Herb's secretary. I picked her out to have her. In fact, today is her birthday. Virginia, happy birthday. She's 85. 85 years young. She paints very well. She wants a Westie. So I'm doing this for her. She can't have it in real life. She's too busy minding our dogs. Now, the mouth is dark. I already have that there, and now I see where I see a light right here. Always pulling my stroke away, keeping this detached. They are tiny little dogs. There's his little shoulder, and there's his hip. I think he's got more whiskers. Isn't it nice to have the background in further than you want so that you can keep going out a little bit more? Right here is where it's lighter. Lots of people try to do this with a tiny round brush instead of a big brush handled in this fashion. Let me step back and see what I've done. I have a mixture of burnt umber and black on my brush, and I'm going to do his eyes. Well, from that photograph, I just see two very dark spots. But since I have examined little dogs' eyes a lot, looked into their loving eyes, I'm not going to just paint what I see. I'm going to apply what I know to what I see. That's what painting is all about. That's his eyes. Of course, the way the hair encounters it. And I guess you've noticed I finally have used a small brush. Sure, I use small brushes, small jobs, small brushes. When I get into these close quarters. Well, I don't see a highlight in his eye, but I saw one in his eye once. With the light coming from the right in this photograph, I know that the light would hit here and there, just to make him look. And doggies' eyes do, the color of them, the light passes in them and reflects very more dramatically than they do in human eyes. Oops, I just put it in and took it out. And with blue and alizarin, darken right in here, because that would be very dark there because of his little nose shadowing his eye. It's true that their eyes usually have little fluffs of hair in front of them, but I hesitate to do that with those eyes so wet. I may save that for another time. Now down to his nose. Make sure that I've got the perspective right. And this is where the hair is combed and grows from the seam. And now with a violet, manganese violet and black. Little shape of his shiny little nose. It's much like a button on a flower. I just thought of that. And we make it shine with a highlight. Little nostrils, blue and alizarin. phthalo blue. I use phthalo blue, a real dark, rich blue. And as I do with people, I try to do the mouth with just a suggestion rather than make a big issue of it. A few strokes here and there. He has a deeper cast shadow from his face on his chest. More of a shadow here. So let's see what that did. Stepping back made me see my mistakes, and so I want to correct them. You see them. I'm sure you can see them better than I can because you're sitting back watching the whole process, and seeing it all the time. I have to watch the little thing that I'm doing. When I'm doing this, I don't see this. So I sometimes don't see the relationship of one thing to another. Stepping back helps you do that. I felt that the nose looked too tiny, so I have to make the nose bigger. He looks a little bit poofed out over here in relation to here. Maybe I have to move out on that side. That looks better. That looks more characteristic. And that looks more characteristic. And that does too. Something odd in here. He looks as though he's more this. Maybe I've overdone the lost line. Oh, that helped. Constantly looking for shapes of lights and darks. Well, I've used up my lights and darks. Used up his light hairs, his shadowed hairs, his eyes, nose, and mouth, and I come to a conclusion again. And I hope to see you next time when I'll teach you something else. I haven't decided yet. Or maybe I'll teach you how to make soup. Hi again. I'm Helen Van Wyk. Welcome to my studio. Shape searcher. That's kind of a toughie to say. But I have amended it, or I've extended it. I'm not just a shape searcher. I'm a shape searcher, a beautiful shape searcher.